Hi, I'll be taking you through my VBA project for ABE 205. So this project is a program that came from the need from another class. This other class was organic chemistry, the lab portion of it. And in this lab we would have to obviously read up on our experiment for the week, and one of the portions for this pre-lab, among others, was to create a table of constants. And this table of constants would contain all the chemicals that we'd have to use for this one experiment, plus a ton of other information such as the molecular weight, the density, the boiling point, the melting point, the safety, and some random safety information. So it would have to be a pretty complete analysis of each chemical. And often the chemicals could reach up to 15, possibly even 20 chemicals that we'd have to use for these experiments. So in the end it'd be kind of time consuming. So if I run you through this right now, I'll do this. My sample chemical is going to be methanol, but we can add in some other random chemicals, maybe chloroform, acetone. We can't misspell it or else it'll come out with an error. Acetone, benzene, sulfuric acid, it's not a good one. Sulfur hexafluoride, just for some good variety. So there we go, we have these chemicals. If there was just 6, that would actually be a pretty lucky week for our experiments, but this is it nonetheless. So if we go with methanol first, and the normal way to do this without the program would be like, okay, here's the internet, go type it into our Google search. Wikipedia is pretty cool, we'll go with that. We'll find it. We'll look down. Okay, we have our molar mass here, 32.04. That's great. We have our density. We have to be able to copy and paste this in right. Sometimes not even all the information will be here for Wikipedia, and so it could be kind of a hassle. Also, safety. There's a ton of safety information. Sometimes the safety information isn't there, and then you have to wade through a lot and make sure you collect the right data. So luckily, this program does all that for you. And so just to run it through, just to see how it seems to the user, is just seems like a lot of flashing, a lot of loading screens. Really what this is doing is it's searching through the HSDB, the ToxNet database, and searches for the specific chemical, finds all the data needed for this specific chemical, and then just loops and finds it for each one, and then in the end spits it out in a table just like that. And so already this is all nicely formatted up to here, but this obviously can be added for more later. It shows where the contents were taken from. Has a safety. I put a lot of safety information here just in case if you wanted to include more or less. Doesn't really matter. And of course, just in case, just to double check on this program, just to make sure it's collecting data correctly, I have the link to the actual search for the chemicals, so you can just double check these numbers are correct. So that's pretty cool. So we'll run you through actually how this program works behind the scenes. So one way, so I guess to do this we can add in these message boxes, so we'll see how it works. Add it in for a couple different, for just these two. That's good. So let's see what happens. So what this table does is so this is one thing you have to be careful of, is that once you make this table of constants, you have to make sure that you actually delete it, because it'll try to make another worksheet called table of constants, and obviously that's an issue. So that's okay, we'll try it again. Just showing some things that might trip out, that actually have this indicated to the user here, just to make sure. But here we go, so we'll try this again. So first what it does is it takes that user input of methanol and adds it to a URL specifically to search for methanol. So here we go, kind of like this. And so this is the HTML version of this search technically. And so what we wanted to find was this little piece of the URL. The problem is that this data is contained only in one column across these rows, and so there'd be a ton of information in here that we don't really need. So I employed use of like in string and mid functions to find the characters that would kind of cut this piece out, and that it would be specific to the chemical that we needed. So then after that, it would prepend this URL, this base URL that's just for every single chemical is the same, and then also this one to make sure that it uses the first selection and then grabs the full report. So here, this one is the same thing. So if we clicked on this, we would get to this page, and we would ask for the full record, clicking on this, which is what the full was, and we get to here, which is the full list of this chemical, methanol. So we can do this search, and we find that, okay, here's our density, melting point, so everything's here, all the data that we need, which is great. So we have this, it goes to the full report, and it takes the program to this page, which was just like the page before, but again in like this HTML form. Also, it's good to note that these sheets are opened up in Excel, but then after the computer actually collects all the data, it'll just close it without saving, so that the sheets won't clutter the hard drive of the user. So that's what actually was that flashing when we saw it earlier. So here we go. This is actually, I think this was the message box for the boiling point, 64.7. So there we go. Collecting this, which is good. So the way this worked was it actually found the header of the program. I would tell the program to find the header of each data point that we needed. It'll find the header, and luckily the data was always 2 cells below that header. So then we drop it 2 cells below, and tell it again to cut out using the same functions for parsing that we did before to get the URL, and find these data points. So it would find 0.81, as seen it grabbed the 64.7 degrees, which is great. So it grabs that, and we have also the molecular formula. This process also is repeated for all the other ones. So for safety, it would just grab all the safety information in a certain cell, and then this whole program, after done, it would just loop in this do while loop, which would gather all the information up to a blank cell. So if we needed 500 chemicals in a table of 500 chemicals, it'd be totally okay, and this program can handle it and output it in that same exact table. So here we go. We've gotten all the names of all our chemicals here and all the information, just as seen before. As we've seen, that this boiling point was actually 64.7, as seen on that Toxinet webpage. So the information seems pretty accurate, at least for methanol. So again, the URLs are here to just make sure that everything's correct. And just on this user interface, I have it so just a little bit of instructions just to make sure that everything runs smoothly, and they put the table just how it needs to be put together. So as we've seen here, this table can be made in a couple minutes and can save almost an average of like 30, 40, maybe even an hour of time for the student making this pre-lab in this quick automated program. So thanks for listening.